Hello Instafam, it is Dr. T coming to you on Wednesday night for our live Q&A, hoping that you can join us. I am currently hiding in the music room from the dog, but what's the bet? He comes knocking on the door very soon. Poor Mr. Winston has reached that time in his life where we don't want any more little Winstons running around, and had to have a bit of an operation yesterday, so he's not very happy. He's wearing one of those Elizabethan cones around his head and he's trying to get it off, not unsurprisingly. So I'm sure he's going to come knocking on the door very soon, poor little thing. Anyway, enough about animal reproduction. Let's talk about human reproduction. Thank you so much to all the messages that have been coming my way this week. There have been some wonderful DMs with lots of gratitude, and I've got to tell you guys, I really appreciate it. And what's more important to me is I know that I'm hitting the mark. My objective with these sort of lives and the information I share on my Instagram is to educate and empower you with evidence-based medicine. I mean, that's my main objective. And certainly over the last couple of weeks, I've been asking lots of questions around the use of social media for education and empowerment with evidence-based medicine. And some of you have come back and given me some really great food for thought. So if you haven't answered my questions, please go to my Insta feed. I have pinned at the top, there's about 4 different questions there. And I'd love to get your feedback so that we can continue to utilize this space in the most effective way to give you the information that you need. So moving right along, somebody has asked me a question already, direct message, and it was, I'm just going to try and paraphrase it. Essentially, they are asking the question, when is, or if there is, a right time to consider seeing a different fertility specialist. So obviously everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their own story. And I do think that the number one thing that you should consider always is that somebody that you are going to trust, and somebody who you are going to be able to strike up a really good therapeutic relationship with. I do think way too many times I hear the word trauma when people describe their fertility journey. Now, of course, nobody finds this journey particularly fantastic. It's just like the oncology journey, to be frank. It's not a nice journey to be on. Sorry, my connection just fell out for a sec. Sometimes there are great outcomes and sometimes there are not great outcomes. But most importantly, you want to make sure that you feel well supported and you are trusting of your fertility team that is around you. And I'll just say that is also important. It's not just about the fertility doctor themselves, but it's also about the team that they surround themselves with, the embryology team, the nursing team, the administrative staff, the whole multidisciplinary, the psychologists that support you in your journey. It's important to consider that if you are considering changing either specialists or centres. Now, what to look for aside from, that trusting relationship, the compassion, the ability to develop that good therapeutic relationship? I think you need to look for someone who has additional qualifications. So most people who work in the fertility space as a fertility specialist are obstetrician gynecologists, so they're fellows of the Royal Australian New Zealand College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Well, certainly here in Australia they are. Some endocrinologists also work in this space, so they've got specialty training in endocrinology and then have gone on to subspecialise in reproductive endocrinology. But I do think that you should seek out somebody who has additional qualifications over and above their obstetrics and gynecology. The peak, the pinnacle is the Certificate of Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility, which I completed. It's subspecialty training. It's a minimum of an additional 3 years. You do research projects, you sit a couple of exams, you learn about reproduction and infertility in a really in-depth way, over and above O&G. Secondary to that, there are some master's programs that people can do either online or in person. And I think somebody who has undertaken those, and even sort of an unaccredited fellowship, so they have perhaps as part of their final year of O&G, perhaps they've sort of sat in as part of a fertility rotation for 6 to 12 months in their final year of O&G. So I would kind of rank it like that. I think those things are really, really important. And then over and above that, it's then about thinking about how active that person might be in that community. So are they doing research projects? Are they training fellows, constantly stimulating themselves with more new and more information? Are they traveling to and presenting at conferences? And many of us have those sorts of things on our websites, or we might even be talking about them on our social media pages. So I think somebody who is constantly keeping abreast of the latest information is what you want to be seeking. So hopefully to whomever asked that question, that is helpful. Some practical things around changing fertility specialists. You've got to understand that you are going to be starting again. I think it's only fair to the person that you go and see for a second opinion. And look, I'm all in support of second opinions. I don't necessarily think there is only one way to achieve an outcome. I think there are potentially several ways. And remember, of course, that every person's journey is different. So it is important that you have the opportunity to go and see someone who might see it through a different lens. But it's really important to understand that although you might be partway along your journey, your fertility treatment journey, that person is coming in at the ground level, at the baseline level. And so it's only fair to give them the opportunity to start again, to take a detailed history, perhaps to do some examination or investigations that you may or may not have done before, and to consider whether or not actually their advice to you might be exactly the same, or it might be to try something different. So I think it's really important, because I have had many people come to me for second opinions, and a good percentage of people, I think, are somewhat frustrated by the fact that they're having to tell their story again, or they're having to we can't just pick up and carry on where they have left off. And I think that's part of seeking out a second opinion, is enabling the medical practitioner to do their due diligence on your case, so that they can, with confidence, say to you, actually, I think that everything that has been done for you has been done appropriately, or actually, this is another way that we could consider managing this. And in truth, sometimes the outcomes end up being exactly the same. So I'm hoping, again, that that is helpful and thoughtful information. If anyone else has any bits of information that they would like questions answered about, I don't think I've seen anything dropped into the chat, but if you do have something, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat now. I like to keep things as broad as I can. Please don't give me a life story. Please don't give me your medical history, because social media is not the right place to be doing a medical consult. Hey, Natty Chew, how are you? I feel like I'm taking too many supplements. What are your absolute yes supplements for egg quality? Oh, gosh. Well, to be frank, if you really want to strip it back, Natty Chew, I think the most essential nutrient that you need to be on, in addition to a good Mediterranean diet, is folic acid. I think that is the one thing that is the absolute essential. I'm not really one that supports folinic acid or activated folate. I don't think the evidence is there that it reduces neural tube defects. The evidence around folic acid supplementation is way back in the 1990s. I think the randomized trials were done. And the trials were done on folic acid, not folinic acid, not activated folate. There is the biological assumption that it does the same thing, but I don't think conclusively we can put our hand on our heart and say that it does. So I would always advocate for folic acid. As far as egg quality goes, that's a really difficult and rather evidence-free area. And I may disappoint you by saying, aim firstly, here comes Mr. Winston. I've just got to show you his cone. Hang on a sec, there he is. Hey, Mr. Winston. Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, so I may disappoint you by saying that I think stick to Mediterranean diet. If you get the Mediterranean diet bit right first, you should cover yourself for all of the micronutrients that you need. And there's fairly, again, dietetics and nutrition research, the quality is not great, but there's fairly consistent evidence to show that we should be optimizing a Mediterranean style diet from a fertility and reproduction point of view. When you get into therapeutic supplementation for egg quality, poor quality of evidence, animal-based level of evidence, so sort of mouse model levels of evidence around things like MNM or nicotinamide or NAD+. The evidence is not really there that it does actually improve egg quality. Biologically, it makes sense. But the evidence is not strong enough, I believe, for us to be prescribing it in a clinical scenario. Don't know what dose, don't know how often, don't know how long. Hang on a sec, I just have to rescue something. A pen on my carpet. What else? DHEA, androgens, there's a little bit of evidence, particularly around testosterone being taken prior to egg collection, melatonin acting as an antioxidant, again, sort of level 3 evidence, and then coenzyme Q10, which most people are accessing from the pharmacy anyway. So, as I said, the evidence is not awesome. I do think paring it back, pulling it right back, focusing on the basics first and foremost. At this point in time, if I had the elixir of youth, don't worry, I'd be telling you all about it. All right, hopefully that's helpful for you. I don't think anyone else has asked a question. I've probably got room for one more question. I've been gabbing on about choosing your fertility specialist. Anything else to ask? No worries, my friend. Oh my God, he's going to tear my house apart. This is the dog that opens doors. Anything else, my friends? One last question. Jules Catherine NT, the damn microbiome. Oh my goodness, I agree with you. What are your thoughts on retesting after Emma Alice test? Yes or no, repeat biopsy, or can you do a swab? Well, there's so many levels of thought around this. If you are going to do an Emma and Alice properly, then it's actually recommended that you have a rebiopsy. That's the truth. That you do your biopsy, you treat according to what the results say, and then you go back and see if the treatment has actually worked. That's the recommendation. Do we do that? Most of us don't. Why? Well, it's somewhat burdensome. It's extremely expensive to retest. And how's it going to change the outcome if you've treated it and it hasn't improved? And I guess the second layer around that is we're still not sure that the Emma and Alice test, it's not well validated. We don't know what we should be reading in the microbiome. What is the most important thing? It's still very pioneering. We think that sort of lactobacilli is, yes, the most important nutrient there, but which of the species we're not quite. Crispatus is the one we think is most important, but we don't know in what proportion and at what stage in the cycle. So I still think that there's a lot of work to be done in this space. When I went to ESHRA this year, I was kind of underwhelmed at the quality of evidence coming out. There's still lots of questions to be asked. So there is the suggestion, though, that perhaps the vaginal microbiome might be more indicative of the endometrial microbiome as far as outcomes go, but, watch this space. So do I think doing a swab is just as valuable? No, I think they measure completely different things, and I'm not even sure that the assays are the right ones to be using right now. So, yeah, watch this space, my friend. Do you know what? My dog is about to absolutely destroy my house. Somebody has asked around the top tips for an FET. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my top 5. Tip number 1. Tip number 1 with... Hang on, I need to rescue another pen. Tip number 1. Around a frozen embryo transfer. I can talk to you about the techniques. So tip number 1, ensure that your embryo transfer is being done under ultrasound guidance. Tip number 2, there is no requirement for you to lie down for any length of time after your embryo transfer. You can get up, it's not going to fall out. You can go to the toilet, it's not going to fall out. Tip number 3, you can have sexual intercourse after having a frozen embryo transfer. Of course, if you are discouraged rather, but I was trying to think of the right word. If you are discouraged from your team from having sexual intercourse, then please follow the advice. But it is even considered possibly implantation promoting to expose the endometrium to semen and the chemicals within semen. Tip number 4, just be normal. Like, there's no point wrapping yourself in cotton wool. And it's also similarly not the time to go changing to sort of biodynamic diets or just be normal. Tip number 5, just avoid the toxins. Don't drink, don't smoke, get lots of sleep. All the things that you would guess would be the right things to do. So they're probably my top tips. They're probably really boring, but I think if you do those things and just really fill your cup in that 2-week wait, because honestly, it's the worst wait in the world. So make sure that you are keeping yourself busy and filling your cup. Guys, that's it for me today. Hopefully it's been helpful. I will try to, quickly, Tegan Townsend, the benefit of acupuncture pre, during and post-treatment. Do I think it's beneficial and a must? No, I don't think it's a must. Right now, there is no randomized controlled trial evidence to show that it's beneficial, but questionable whether the actual studies were measuring the right things. But if it makes you feel good and it gives you some time out, then it is of benefit to you, so definitely go ahead and do it. Guys, I'm going to go rescue the music room before he starts getting stuck into the piano and the guitar, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.